A new year brings a familiar showdown. Actions taken in the past lead to a new crisis today.
One thing is absolutely clear. America is at a breaking point.
Strong accusations and a response from Washington.
This is a policy arena where Congress has failed to act for decades, and we are living the consequences of that every day on the border.
Then the courtroom drama to come. Never before has a former president been on trial. The historic event now in focus. And remembering a local leader who shaped Dallas by her actions. Right now on Lone Star Politics.
This is Lone Star Politics from NBC5 and the Dallas Morning News.
Happy New Year. I'm Phil Prazan from NBC5.
And I'm Gromer Jeffers, political writer with the Dallas Morning News. Today we're taking a close look at the ongoing immigration crisis at the southern border. Years of delay and broken negotiations have led to this problem. Now, another standoff in the courtroom and the halls of Congress.
The United States Department of Justice filed a lawsuit against the state of Texas over its new immigration law. Senate Bill 4 allows local and state police to arrest people they believed crossed the border into Texas illegally. It allows officers to take an immigrant back to a port of entry if a local judge signs off on that. The Department of Justice argues Senate Bill 4 violates the Supremacy Clause of the U.S. Constitution. Associate Attorney General Vanita Gupta writing, SB 4 is clearly unconstitutional under the Supremacy Clause of the Constitution, and long-standing Supreme Court precedent states cannot adopt immigration laws that interfere with the framework enacted by Congress. The latest court decision was around a decade ago with Arizona versus the United States. Arizona passed a law making it a state crime to not have legal status in the state. That was ruled unconstitutional. However, and check this out, Governor Greg Abbott late last year said he believed the Texas law is constitutional because it's not a crime over status, it's a crime for physically crossing the border, like trespassing. He then went on to say, though, if this new Supreme Court overturns Arizona versus United States, he wouldn't be upset about it.
We think that Texas already has a constitutional authority to do this, but we also welcome a Supreme Court decision that would overturn the precedent set in the Arizona case.
Now, we will see in the days ahead which side the court comes down on. In the meantime, we've seen a large number of people crossing into the country illegally. A big chunk of them claim asylum. So after they're caught by law enforcement or Border Patrol officers, they get a court date months, but sometimes years in the future. In the meantime, they can stay in the country because our courts have given them some rights under the U.S. Constitution. According to numbers from the federal government, officers had more than 240,000 encounters with immigrants in November 2023 alone. In December, they predict that number will be closer to 300,000. Now, we've spoke with service providers here who tell us there is simply not room in our local shelters in North Texas.
The shelters are full. We need to face that. I mean, we hear it all over the news. They're over capacity, so there is no way to keep giving those addresses.
And in the meantime, Governor Abbott has bused tens of thousands of people to big cities up north like Chicago, New York, and Denver. They now have also called on the federal government for more resources to house the new migrants.
All of our cities have reached a point where we are either close to capacity or nearly out of room.
We're not going to let Republicans make these individuals political pawns.
And also this week, New York is suing Texas charter bus companies who dropped off thousands of migrants in New York City without any advance notice. The mayor says they are breaking their law and want more than $700 million to pay the cost of housing and caring for the migrants they bring. So now what? This all heads to a showdown in Congress. The first major budget deadline is January 19th. The Biden administration has put a major influx of manpower and resources on the table for border security. The Republican House leadership, however, wants major policy and law changes, like restarting the Remain in Mexico policy put in place under former President Trump and ending what they call catch and release, or letting immigrants out of custody while they wait for their immigration court date. Speaker of the House Mike Johnson came to Texas to make his pitch.
It was quite a moment. Speaker of the House Mike Johnson and more than 60 other Republican members of Congress held a press conference Wednesday. Within view, an immigrant family walks across the Rio Grande towards Texas.
If President Biden wants a supplemental spending bill focused on national security, it better begin by defending America's national security.
Speaker Johnson said the Republican-led House wants major changes to immigration policy, and they're willing to hold up American taxpayer aid to Ukraine to get it. A war has raged on in that Eastern European country since Russia invaded almost 2 years ago. Several members of the Texas delegation backed the speaker up Wednesday.
How do we fix this? We end catch and release. How do we fix this? We deport people that are here illegally by the thousands, not by the dozens.
Last year, the House passed a measure building more border wall and tightening asylum laws. They said they also want two major changes this year. The first, returning Remain in Mexico policies, which requires immigrants to wait outside the United States until their court date. The other big change they want is to end what they call catch and release, which is the long-standing United States policy allowing people to wait for their court date out of custody. While they wait, many Republicans argue immigrants should remain in detention centers or mostly get deported while they wait for their immigration process to play out. Many times, the federal government only deports those they have the resources for, prioritizing the most dangerous. These members of Congress believe that should be drastically expanded.
We have a job to do. The American people are absolutely sick of the policies that they've seen in the Biden administration, and we will hold the line.
On the other side, the Biden administration rolled out a plan worth tens of billions of dollars for more immigration judges and border security officers.
So the gist is the system is overloaded and doesn't work. According to Syracuse University, there is a 3 million case backlog of immigration cases and only 600 judges to work through them. That means each judge has to work through 5,000 cases this year alone to catch up. And we spoke to Assistant Secretary of Border Security and Immigration Policy for the Biden administration, Blas Nunez Nieto.
So the funding we have requested is critically needed, and we really continue to urge Congress to pass those emergency funds. We're also, as we have said consistently, eager to work with Congress on a bipartisan basis to address these issues in our immigration laws that are contributing to what we are seeing at the border. We welcome the bipartisan negotiations that are taking place in the Senate, and encourage and urge Speaker Johnson and the House majority to engage on a bipartisan basis to look for solutions here instead of just playing politics.
It sounds like you mentioned the inaction and that this is in many ways a decades-long problem. Do you know how to fix it, though? Does the administration know? I mean, how do you fix it?
Well, you know, we have taken a number of executive actions designed to try to address what we are seeing. We passed a circumvention of lawful pathways rule that puts what we think are some common sense conditions on asylum eligibility at the border. We have, since the public health emergency ended on May 11th, removed more than 460,000 people from the United States. That is a record for the period of time we're talking about. We've taken meaningful steps, as have previous administrations, with our executive authorities. However, we are clear-eyed that there are limits to what the federal government can do without Congress doing its job. And this is a policy arena where Congress has failed to act for decades, and we are living the consequences of that every day on the border in Dallas and in communities all over the country.
The Republican plan, I mean, from their perspective, they're saying there's just been too many illegal immigrants at the moment. We just kind of want to stop the flow and shut the border down completely. I'm just curious about what you think that idea is, because their plan of remain in Mexico, no more immigrants in Texas, even if they claim asylum, that would be the reality. And I'm curious of what you think about that.
Well, I'm curious as well what they mean when they say that, because we are a nation of laws and we are a nation of immigrants. And our laws, which Congress passed, are pretty clear about what happens on the border when individuals cross into the United States, express a fear and, you know, seek asylum in the country. And we are obligated by law to process those individuals. So I'm not really sure what they think we can do statutorily given what Congress has enacted already. What we really need is for Congress to, again, take this up on a bipartisan basis and try to come up with solutions instead of really just playing politics with this issue.
But let me ask you about Texas and Operation Lone Star. The state has spent over $11 billion on its own border security initiative. Governor Abbott has said the administration should send him a thank you card. What do you think about the state's efforts? Do they help or do they get in the way?
Unfortunately, I think we've seen the governor take a number of actions that are not coordinated, that are unilateral, and that, frankly, are counterproductive in many ways. And so what we have consistently said is we welcome, coordinated actions by really any state, local entities that are, really focused on trying to solve this problem in a meaningful way. But when state governors act on their own, when they do not coordinate their actions, that really can become counterproductive and can sometimes put the migrants or even law enforcement at risk.
What actions are you talking about specifically?
Look, I'm not going to get into a laundry list of actions here. I would just note that, when we have states that are busing migrants to other cities without coordinating those actions with those cities, that is problematic both for the migrants and for the receiving cities. And obviously, we have a number of lawsuits right now involving the state of Texas that I can't really comment on, but that are often counterproductive.
And on the busing of migrants, cities, Chicago and New York specifically has asked for federal assistance in dealing with what's becoming a crisis in those cities. Is there help on the way, you believe, from the federal government or no?
Well, so our ability to provide that kind of assistance is really contingent on Congress passing the emergency supplemental that we just talked about. There are substantial funds in that supplemental request for state, local communities and NGOs, including in Dallas. We have provided almost $4.5 million to Dallas to help with the migrants that are passing through the city. And, we have similar programs in place all over the country, but those programs are really contingent on Congress providing the funds that state and local communities need. And again, these are the costs of what is a fundamentally broken immigration system, and one that until Congress, works together on a bipartisan basis to resolve, we're just going to continue to see these kinds of issues on our border.
And we'll make sure to follow up with those debates. It's been 3 years since hundreds stormed the U.S. Capitol. Still ahead, President Biden marks the anniversary with a warning. Plus, remembering Trailblazer Eddie Bernice Johnson, her life, legacy, and how you can pay tribute to the late Congresswoman when Lone Star Politics returns.
African American women had not been involved that much in electoral politics. As a matter of fact, I learned several years later from one of the researchers at the University of Texas that I was the first African-American woman to run and win any office in Dallas. I guess when you get my age, you're concerned more about whether or not your legacy will be encouraging.
No doubt that it is. Funeral services for longtime Dallas Congresswoman Eddie Bernice Johnson will take place this week. She died December 31st.
Tomorrow in Dallas, Eddie Bernice Johnson will lie in state at the Hall of State in Fair Park, then at Dallas Concord Church. A wake Monday evening and funeral on Tuesday, which we will carry live online and on our streaming channel. You may have heard about a legal battle surrounding the death of Eddie Bernice Johnson. Her son, Kirk Johnson, says she never recovered from an infection that developed after she underwent back surgery. He alleges medical negligence at Baylor Scott & White Institute for Rehabilitation. It is operated by Select Medical Rehabilitation Services, which declined to comment. In a statement, Baylor Scott & White said in part that, quote, "We are committed to working directly with the Congresswoman's family members and their counsel." You can read more online at NBCDFW.com and DallasNews.com. Right now, we want to welcome State Senator Royce West, longtime friend of Congresswoman EBJ, and her replacement in the Texas Senate. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. Happy New Year to both of you.
Happy New Year to you, Senator. Now, I know you sit in the seat that, as we affectionately call her, EBJ once held, and she was sort of a mentor. Tell us about what she meant to you and the work you did together.
And first of all, let me express condolences to the family and thank you for the station for doing what it's doing as it relates to making certain that her legacy is front page, if you will, in terms of on your newscasts and carrying the funeral live also. Eddie Bernice Johnson was a confidant. She was a mentor, confidant, a person that I could talk to about different issues, be they political, be they policy-wise, and get some strategic advice in terms of what needs to be done, and just frankly just have a nice conversation with her on different issues.
And she was instrumental in your career as well, right? Your historic run for district attorney, what was that, 1986?
1986, and I mean, again, she was the first politician I ever met when I was president of the student body at UT Arlington. That's when back in the 70s, 76 I think it was, is when I met Eddie Bernice Johnson when she was a House member, I believe she was. Yeah. And needless to say, I went to finish college, went to law school and things like that, and came back and was in the district attorney's office and was encouraged by her to run for a district attorney.
Yeah. It's funny because people, most of the public know her as a politician. You know more than that. Did she ever get on you? Was she funny? Was she? Oh yeah,
I mean, yes, she did get on me. In her own, how should I say, way. I'll put it down. I'll leave it like that. She would have constructive criticism from me. She would critique some of the things that I was doing, but she was always supportive. When I ran for U.S. Senate, Eddie Bernice Johnson was right there. She was right there when I was governor for the state of Texas. Yeah, Eddie Bernice Johnson was right there.
Yeah.
We're still waiting to find out the specifics of what happened at the end of her life and about this infection situation in the nursing facility. But do you think that this will bring up, I guess, a look at nursing facilities? I mean, because you do have some great ones, and then you have some terrible ones. Could this, be a spark to raise some of the minimal standards in the Texas legislature?
I think that you're right. We have to wait to see what happened, but it's real clear what happened. And in terms of whether the legislature will take another look at it, it should be looked at. Anytime we have this type of event that occurs in a rehabilitation facility or any type of facility, we should be looking at the standard of care and whether or not there need to be any changes to it.
And of course, Texas is a state where tort reform is present here.
Right.
Damages are capped at $250,000 in a case like this. Not punitive, but even punitive would have to be a unanimous jury verdict, I believe. What do you think about the tort reform?
Well, I think that the right attorney is handling the case, first of all. Les. I've been on Les for a long time.
Right.
I know Les will not allow this case to be undervalued based on his relationship with his long-term relationship with Eddie Bernice Johnson. Obviously, he would not allow the case to be undervalued and will make a determination as to whether or not punitive damages are warranted in this particular case. I have never, ever heard of a person just being left alone if what is said was true, and we heard it, you were there, being left alone for over an hour, frankly crying out for help and not being able to get the help. And here's a lady that gave her life, frankly, to making certain that people had access to quality health care.
Yeah, she's a registered nurse.
Registered nurse, and then couldn't get quality health care at the end of her life.
Senator West, thanks for joining us. I appreciate your time.
My pleasure.
All right.
The race for the White House shifts into a new gear. Still ahead, we are now 2 weeks from the first votes being cast in the race for the White House. A look at where the candidates stand. Next on Lone Star Politics. Welcome back to Lone Star Politics. Yesterday marked the 3rd anniversary of the January 6th insurrection at the United States Capitol. The Biden-Harris campaign is using it as an opportunity to remind folks that the former president is in court over this issue and of, quote, dire stakes in the 2024 election. The campaign saying, quote, we are running a campaign like the fate of our democracy depends on it because it does.
Meanwhile, we are just days, Phil, just days before the Iowa caucuses, and for the first time, Republicans will cast their vote for president. Despite mounting legal battles, former President Trump remains a commanding lead over his Republican rivals. A recent poll shows he's the first choice candidate for 51% of likely GOP caucus voters.
It's 2024 already.
Yeah, we're already here. Can you believe it?
I can't.
March 5th, Texas, by the way.
That's all the time we have. Stay tuned for Meet the Press with Kristen Welker. For our entire crew, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you back here next Sunday for more Lone Star Politics.
We ought to get Kristen on Lone Star Politics one day. What do you think?
That'd be nice.